We're back.
We're back on our first real topic, and it's a
Mm,
doozy. If you're
it
ready for
is.
it
It's a big
or
one.
not. Yeah,
It's a big one.
yeah.
But let's get into it.
Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit, because you can probably talk months on this, about love. Yes.
What's love got to do? Got to do with it? It's
Yes.
just my mind how it works with music.
Yep. Well, that's
Yes.
perfect because that's gonna be on the title.
There you go. There you go. Well, I
Um,
feel like love is something that we all want,
hmm
and we each have an idea of what love is.
Well, I guess we got to start first about love with regards to ourselves versus someone else. So maybe let's address that a little bit first. I kind of feel like we always need to consider the love of self first, which I think most of us, especially those who give a bit much, sometimes tend to lose the idea of what self-love is first. I'm not going to overemphasize the self-love because this is more about external love, I feel, but I think it's still really important because we can't fully love another person well enough if we don't love ourselves enough. Because if we don't love ourselves well enough, we don't create the healthy boundaries, and then that's when things can go awry. What do you think, Sophia?
I would agree, but recently I ran into this I don't know how to call it situation
Mm.
where people have, I think the whole idea of self-love has been so used and overused that people think that because I've heard the word self-love being used in a negative way. That's what I wanted to
In
say.
what way do you think was negative?
Um, I'm trying to remember. It was a recent someone was describing someone, and part of the negative that was told about this person is that he's too in love with himself or he loves himself too much. That's what it was,
Uh,
right? And it was to the point where this person would just whatever do what they want and that's it, kind of thing, right? So I always want to put that difference, right? There's
I
nothing
would
wrong
think
technically
I would
doing
think
what you
that has
want.
something to do with more of understanding our conscious ego with regards to that. I
Hmm.
think it's less about actual self-love than it is about, oh, I'm doing what I want because I want it. And we exclude other things. But if we're just focusing on self-love, meaning more about self-respect and
I like that more.
you know,
Yes.
admiration of where you're at. Like, I'm no less than anyone else. I'm no better than anyone else. I appreciate myself in all of my quirks and, imperfections and perfections.
And accept them. And I
Accept
accept
them.
them in myself. Yes.
Yeah,
I find that's
accept.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Accepting.
But you're
Because
right. It
yeah.
can't go too far. It can't be more like egotistical and you're self-serving and you can lose that balance too and overstep other people. And yeah, I can see how that can definitely go that way.
It's interesting how a lot of the things are kind of, we're going back to that polarity, right? We're
Mm,
always got to hold it somewhere in the middle, somewhere like the balance, somewhere in
right.
between in order to be whole, I guess, in a way.
Mm, yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does to an extent, but at the same time, I'm leery about using that word whole when it comes to us. I feel like sometimes we feel like we're lacking more than we are what we are accepting where we're at in the moment. And that's kind of leads to what can go wrong when we're looking for love externally, I think, because then we're seeing the lacking within us or not seeing it, but feeling it, and we're trying so hard to get it, and we think we can get it elsewhere. And that's when it also can cause trouble.
Hmm.
Um,
That's where trauma bonding happens. Ta-da!
Trauma, trauma bonding, yes, and
And I feel,
codependency on a lesser
hmm
level. Yes, yes,
yeah. And
yeah.
I feel like everyone in this lifetime, I don't know anyone who's never had a codependent relationship or a trauma bonded relationship. I feel like it's part of the experience that we're here to do, to experience that, to learn it, and to move on.
Then let me ask you, your concept of what you consider unconditional love is.
Hmm. Mm. So what I consider unconditional love. I consider unconditional love is again accepting the person as they are, meaning a lot of the times, and this is me strictly speaking about myself, right? There were times in my lifetime where I would be dating someone and there's a wish, well, I wish he would have been this, and you, no matter what it is, you try and change them, right? Well, why can't you be like this? And, I want to do this and I want you to be this way, right? Well, that's not unconditional because I'm already putting conditions where, if you act this way, I will love you more because I won't scream and yell. Not that I scream and yell, but you know what I mean? It's kind of unconditional is accepting. So this person is this way. And then I decide for myself, okay, why am I not able to accept them as is? Right? Is this going against my boundary, right? Or is it something that I'm okay with and I can forego, right? Or this is like a no-go for sure. And that's it, right? Because that's also part of the love. Part of the love is being able to let go of the person when you understand that, well, it's not going to work out with me because it's just not a good match. Either I'm not where I need to be in order to accept this person, right? Or we just need to go separate ways. That's also part of love because you can love someone but love them at a distance.
Do you think it's possible to actually have absolute unconditional love with another person?
I love how we humans have the absolutes, right? The same as black and white, right? Absolutes. Um, I don't know, but I've seen people who have come to a specific point. I'm sure we all still struggle, right? But I've seen people who come to a specific point where they made a decision to love their partner how they are, right? And work within themselves, and have decided to let go of anything, of any desire of their partner to be a specific way.
Mm,
So I guess that's as close as you can get to that
mm,
absolute.
I agree. I feel like there's always some level of expectation. I think actually that is healthy. We need to have a balance because talking about that self-love aspect, we are not the same as anyone else on this planet, no matter how hard we try. But we can learn to accept them for expressing their expression in their way and hope that they would express that the same way for us. And but if we're always expecting too much, then that's when the traumas might happen, the codependencies might happen, and well, I think also noting that there is no easy way to offer or get unconditional love, even though technically we can say that we do that for our children pretty naturally for most of us. But that's also not true because we're often telling them what to do, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
the natural order of things. So it's okay to expect, but we do our best to allow and not put our own personal desires or agendas on someone else. I think that's when we learn to do it better. And I think that's
But
one
I
thing I
think
would
with
tell my
mhm.
son about like what we do is we aim to do better, not for perfection. So
Oh, I like that. But I feel like with kids, it's a bit harder than a let's say relationship with like, another grown up because we have that we feel that responsibility and we're like, well, I know better. Like I know better because I'm older. Like I made you. Even if I didn't physically make you, right? I brought you up, whatever it is, right? So we
And plus, they
already
also
initially,
do rely on us. So there
yeah,
is a condition on their end that we provide and keep them safe. And, if we're doing that properly, they will feel that and
yes,
believe that there's some sort of unconditional care there. Yeah.
yeah. The only thing is, and I know this is slightly off topic, but for, for us parents to remember that no matter what, we're here to teach them. They're also here to teach us.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've learned many lessons through
So
my
yeah,
child, for sure.
yeah. But that is, I have to say, that's the biggest one I've been struggling with as far as just being unconditional. I know it sounds really bad. With having unconditional love is with my son. Not because I don't love him, but I feel like whatever, how should I put this? Whatever I was taught as a child, right? Or my beliefs, that's what
Mhm.
it is. My beliefs are based on how I was brought up. I'm not saying that, my parents did a bad job. I think they did their best.
Yeah,
I'm just
not right
saying
or wrong. Yep.
those beliefs are still with me, even though it was easier for me to change them towards a significant other, right? I find it slightly harder to do it towards myself. I'm working on it. I'm not saying that I'm not. I'm still working on it, but I am finding that I'm running into that wall of, well, um, I'm struggling to unconditionally love because in my mind I'm like, well, you should be here by this age, or you should be doing this by this age, right? And I think part of it is also self-judgment.
Mm.
So it kind of
Well,
goes
it
all in
triggers
one.
us as individuals to look a little bit deeper into our own methods and ways of thinking. I mean, it wouldn't, if you didn't have your experience as mother, you probably wouldn't have addressed like, oh, I'm doing the exact same thing my parents did, or I'm doing the complete opposite because they traumatized me on some level with regards to how they were doing it.
Mhm.
Um, so we don't get to address those things as readily if we didn't have these intimate connections to make it more challenging and bring things up.
Sometimes I'm just like, can I just relax?
Yeah, right. I think that's my week also. I'm feeling like, can I just take a break from all the lessons, guys? Like just a little bit. I could do a little bit of break, right? But no, that's how it goes, and it's okay. And I'm sure just the fact that you're here for your son, you've already done more than enough with regards to your, what you need to do with versus what you have to do. So, yay.
Well, let's talk about different relationships
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
when it
talk
comes to love,
about.
because we talked about a little bit about codependency,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so this is what I've read, and tell me what your view is. So I read that there's, as far as romantic relationships, let's take those, right? That there's three, I believe there's three different ones. So there's
Types.
karmic relationship, there is soulmate relationship, and there's twin flame relationship.
Mm. I think this is when we start to disagree a little. I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just bringing it up because I this is what I read. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and um, I feel like a lot of it is so intertwined that we can't really name some of them at times. So, a karmic relationship, based on what I read, this is
Mm.
just based on what I read, has to do with you did not work out a certain, you did not work out certain lessons in a previous lifetime. So you're back here again, working it out, right? So that's a karmic relationship, right? So usually those are, again, just what I read, are not very pleasant. Let's just put it that way, right? Then we go to a soulmate relationship. You're there to help each other, more of, because you can help in many different ways. You can help by actually being not very nice to someone, but it's will be helpful for them to move on or whatnot, or learn something about themselves. But the soulmate relationship is more of actually helping on the positive and kind of helping each other move forward. Um, like a friend would, right? But it's a romantic kind of relationship. And then twin flame is meant to, it's a very strong connection on more than just human level. It's a soul level connection because you are part of the same soul, aspect of the same soul. So, but there's a big but because a lot of people are talking now, oh my God, I want to meet my twin flame, not understanding that it's not fun because you're meant to trigger each other, um, so that you will each look at what your traumas are, where they, and letting them go and releasing. I see that you don't agree. I love it.
No, no, no. I love your perspective, and I agree to some level of that for sure. In fact, I think we'll probably insert some lovely clip from a channel that we did for this. We
Yes.
did a channel, guys, about twin flames, specifically in souls and what souls are and stuff. But I think it really kind of comes down to our human logistics of language, like what exactly a soul is versus a twin flame or a soulmate. So my perspective is a little different, not a completely off. So, but you guys get to decide what you think, and let us know what you think. We're very curious. So I think with regards to soulmates, um, soulmates to me are a collective of souls that tend to travel together in a sense. This might go a little deep, sorry, but it's about like the fact that we live more. My belief system is that we live multiple lives, and with what we do past life regression, so we are very much aligned there. So from what we see and experience thus far, past lives, we often travel with other souls together, oftentimes, say, in families. And the other side, I feel there's no um, blood family like we would have here, but we do have kind of a collective that seems more familiar. So we're technically more friend level up there, but we are so loving and caring of each other that we're like, hey, we're gonna do these things together and let's stick together for it. Let's try a couple of lifetimes, learn some lessons, see if we can tackle some of these karmic lessons together, or maybe I'm just going to be supportive this time around. I don't feel like you'll always be a karmic connection if you're karmically dealing with something with someone at some point. But I feel like it's still a soulmate to me. And I don't see soulmates as, oh, that other individual that I'm going to marry, that intimate romantic relationship. To me, that not necessarily the case. I feel we make it into a romantic thing here. And sometimes, yeah, there's an alignment to have someone there to support you on a energetic level that is more close than others. And so when it comes to karmic relationships, I feel like they're the ones that are just, like she says, the ones that are triggering you to learn your lessons. So they might present themselves more challenging in a in a interaction, or they just might just be there and be the whole reason for you to start facing certain things. But then when we come to like twin flames and more intimate soulmates in that way, um, I think twin flames, there is a marked difference, but at the same time, you can't really tell when you're living a life. Um, Other than that, yes, when you interact and you meant to interact in a specific way, it can be really explosive in connection and feelings, and because you're really meeting yourself on a level. When you're a twin flame, you're another representation of yourself, really. You have the same oversoul, if you want to call it. It's you have a higher guidance that are united, is my perception of a twin flame. And you can have more than one. Surprise, surprise. And they're not always a romantic relationship. It could be a mother-child, it could be a friend, it could be anything. And I've seen it where in certain lifetimes you might interact with your twin flame and not have any of those explosive situations or feelings. It could happen. And that's my expression. I know you've seen things differently, Sophia, but that's what I have seen.
But you would feel it though. Would you still feel that a strong
I
connection?
You might feel a familiarity like in all soulmate relationships, but I think we create it ourselves how we gonna respond. If you end up meeting your twin flame and you're on a spiritual growth path and they are, but they're a different one, or whatever needed for that interaction to help either side or both sides on some level, whether it's mirroring something
Mm-hmm.
challenging or supporting something that just needs an extra support in that time frame. It's just like if everything's lined up perfectly in a certain way that we've like, oh, this is what we need to have it lined up, then we'll get together and something will happen and we'll feel something and we'll be something, and we might be long lasting, it might be short, but more often than not we aim for short, I feel, with the twin flame scenario. um because and then you're trying to experience things outside of yourself in this experience. So if you're trying to be together as twins, you're not experienced outside as much as you are with yourself. So
So it's not a happily ever after relationship, but that a lot of people
a lot of
perceive it as
people,
to be. Yeah.
or at least they want to feel that feeling, even if they know. I think a lot of people also know it can be challenging to have that twin flame scenario pop up, but they have this draw to them, like, like
Mm-hmm.
there's like, oh, I think I need to be. I think it's that part of us with regards to the whole conversation of love, and where we feel lacking within. If we feel lacking, we feel like we need that love and care
Mm-hmm.
externally to help us.
Yeah.
And it's nothing wrong with that, but it's also part of an awareness that, oh, there's something in us that we need, something that really we can find within us eventually. On some level, we just have to work at it and figure out what's wrong. But yeah, it's a type of yearning to be whole again, like you said earlier. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
this desire to be more of ourselves. um, and sometimes we think it's external, and yeah, on some levels, with the oneness idea, there is, but I think because we come here on earth to be separate and have these individual experiences, we have to learn to bring all that stuff out, the challenges on top of it. So, anyway, that's my perception of karmic versus soulmates. To me, they
I
are soulmates. Most likely. It doesn't mean that they are, though. It could be just a soul that decide, hey, you want to work on this particular little thing together? Sure, okay, and then never, do anything any after that. But
mm-hmm.
you know,
So
and it's
you so based on what you said,
you know,
you believe that soulmates are also soul family.
could be most
Could be. So
could be.
but is it necessarily or no?
There's no
Okay.
necessarily for anything. I feel like there's such a range for everything. There's always an exception for anything. There's like, if you can think it, I think it's possible. That's what I feel. And I think that's marvelous because it makes it so much more interesting on how, I've heard of, through our QHHT, actually, I had one particular client. She's had many, many lives here, and she always have had the same partner. And I thought that was very interesting. Yes. But then others, they might not have one that continues
Yeah.
on to another. Yeah.
Well, I think it also depends on the lesson, right? I
Mm,
think part of the
yeah.
lesson, well, at least like
Or
I can only,
experience.
or experience, um, partially, like I can only base on what my lessons are this lifetime. And like one of my biggest lessons was to learn how to love myself. And that is not to actually have a partner. Not that I
Mm,
will never have a partner.
mm,
I've had partners. I'm sure I'll have
mhm,
some as well, but it's kind of not receiving what I want from a partner because I'm meant to learn that anything and everything that we need right? We can actually, and I'm talking about on an emotional level, people, right? We can also do it on the physical level. We can do many things, but I'm talking about emotional level at this point in
Yeah.
time. That we're able to receive it from ourselves
Mhm.
because our subconscious, which is the all-knowing part of us, right? It gives us so much love. The only thing is we don't understand it, nor do we understand how to feel it. I don't know
Mhm.
how else to explain it because if you lay down and you ask your subconscious, give me the feeling of love, of how much you love me, right? You will feel it within your body. But it's kind of no one ever taught us to do that. Right? So that's to the point of what you said. You had a session where this client would come back with a partner, with the same partner over and over again. I guess that wasn't one of her lessons to
Right.
learn, or it was
Exactly.
meant to learn in a different way, right?
Right.
Mine was this way, where you got to learn to be alone and love yourself the way you are, and then you can go ahead and create something meaningful. But I think also part of what we as humans have in our beliefs is that we're looking for that one,
Yeah.
not understanding that there's really no one,
Yeah.
right? There is one for right now
Hmm.
because we start here and we're constantly projecting always into the future. So I'm here. Oh my God, this is gonna be for the rest of my life. And we're in the future already and dying, holding this person's hand, right? Whereas if we stay now, we can be like, you know what? I'm enjoying this, whatever it is, this interaction, this relationship now, right? Whether it will change doesn't matter as long as you enjoy it now.
I mean, I think that's what oftentimes a lot of questions that people would get, like, am I gonna meet that person that I'm gonna marry and be with? You kind of want that security and not thinking that you have someone to align with down the line. But what really happens, I feel, is that you get what you're ready for
Mhm.
everything, including an intimate relationship. And to say that we are predestined to be with a certain person or soul is not necessarily the case. There might be, you might have aligned, oh, well, I'm going to want to have this particular soul meet up with me because this is what the experience meant to be, or I prefer it to be. And they have the agreement that, yeah, okay, we'll meet up and we'll be together after some things happen. Yeah. Or it could be more likely than not. It's more about the lesson and the energy and the experience. Like, okay, where are you at in a specific moment? And we'll say time, and who would be the most beneficial to either help you on your path? Well, definitely to help you on your path, but in what way? Is it to help push you towards something, or heal something, or understand something, or just to have that comfort of feeling that comfort of someone being there with you? Is that part of it? It's so it don't necessarily align to a specific person at that point. It could be many different souls that could fit that,
Mhm.
template in that moment, and they might end up being the one in this lifetime, and who knows? And as you're going through it, it's so open, even though it might seem like we're almost fated to do certain things. And I mean, the closest thing to it is our alignment to, okay, what do we want to learn before we come here? But even when we come here, we can create these karmic lessons while we're here. So it's not like anything is in stone.
Mhm.
Everything is a bit arbitrary to your experience. And if you think about parallel lives and all that, it makes it even more complicated because you're doing everything that is possible that is aligned to what your path would be. So whenever people ask me about something like that, especially like intuitive readings and stuff, like, well, I can't, it's hard to explain that to a person in the moment. Like, oh, well, you're going to get who you're going to get. And they'll be like, that's
Mhm.
not good enough. It's like, who is it? Who is this person? Well, that person I saw, they had a drawing of this person and later on they met them. Why don't I? Can't you do that for me? I'm like, well, no, they probably had that alignment to do that,
I
to
mean,
have a A
I
pre
did that. I
you
have
did
a
that.
drawing. Yeah, I have a
Oh,
drawing.
oh, I
I
see.
don't know.
We'll see.
What?
We'll
We'll see.
see.
We'll see.
We'll see how that goes.
Just did it for fun. We'll see.
Well, so who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I think that's more the track. More the actual prediction is that you make your own way, and
Hmm.
who you're gonna be with will align with you in one way or another. And it might be pre-planned or it might not be. That's how I see it.
Think we're breaking some people's hearts right now, and they're like,
Oh,
it's gonna
I'm
be my
sorry.
forever.
No, that Prince Charming is not coming. Oh, let's talk about that. I'd love to talk about Disney and all those
Oh my
lovely.
gosh. And and I think I've seen this in other places already. This is not a new idea, that it has created the belief within us girls and then females, as we grow
Oh,
older,
guys
that we
too.
need someone to save us.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the
And
guy thinks they have to save us.
yes, yes. But in truth, no one can save us but ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Same as no one can make us happy. And that's another thing, right? You watch all of those cartoons and you're like, oh my God, he came and now she's happy.
Forever
And
and ever.
forever, right? Forever and ever. Mind you, they don't show you that part. They just show you the part where they meet, and that's it. They're happily ever
Yeah.
after. Figure it out on your own in your head,
I
right?
mean, especially from our generation
Yeah.
where we grew up with more of that idea. Nowadays, at least we have more of like self-activated individuals who happen to be females more a lot now, like brave and whatnot. It's self-empowerment and that's great, but we also need that balance back. Like,
Hmm.
yes, we can do it ourselves, and we should. In the end, the hard work is within ourselves and us believing in what we need to believe in, but we also need that support, and it's okay to support. And it's the idea of that, what is actually aiming towards unconditional love aspect is like receiving and giving of, okay, that person needs something, what can I offer to help his or her progress, without like overly doing it, like over giving, right? It's like what can be useful, like how can I help you, like a simple question, how can I help you raise yourself up there, instead of like, oh, I need a savior here, somebody help, and you do nothing about it. But
Hmm.
still receive, when you do get that help, and but not put it all on that individual who helps and think that they're, so much better. And yeah, so it's again comes down to
Oh, balance,
the balance. The balance.
balance. Yeah. It's a dance. I
Yeah.
would like it to be a dance because it's more fun.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
balance within the dance. And I don't know why what is it, the Frozen, let it go, which
Yes,
are
we have
true
so much to
words.
let go.
Exactly. It's true words because we do hold on to things that for way too long, things that we don't no longer need, right? Beliefs, whatever it is, not realizing that, well, these beliefs don't work for me anymore,
Mm, yeah,
right? But it's work. It's constant work, but you can make it fun.
yeah. And we can have support, and that could be that intimate partner.
Hmm.
Um, but we have to know that we don't rely on that intimate partner to fix us and expect that. Um, if we do, then it makes it easier for that more unconditional aspect to come into play on both sides. Because if you do it that way, then the other person will do it that way. But now I feel there's still so many people who's often create the environment where they trigger each other, and they don't let go with that. They just be like, create more of the condition. Oh, well,
Hmm.
you're not going to do this to me. This is what, if you cared about me, you wouldn't do this. If you cared about me, this. I mean, it could be all logical things, and it might sound like, oh, if you cared about me, you wouldn't, knowing that I don't like this such and such situation, you wouldn't do that. I'm like, okay, logically, yeah, the other person should avoid doing that. Say, I don't know, an example.
But in a way, you're trying to mold the other person to be comfortable for you
Yeah.
by saying, well, don't do that. I don't like it.
I mean,
That's
that
not.
that goes back to that about the balancing act of what is healthy boundaries versus some just
Hmm.
boundary. Like, oh, I'm just going to throw that there because I want to put it there, and that
Hmm.
becomes more of a egocentric
Yeah.
barrier versus, okay, well, I feel safer if, this doesn't happen.
I think it's also we don't as humans we don't always do enough reflection, right? Even if the whole triggering part happens, right? It's understanding that it's not that other person's fault who triggered you, right? Because we usually that's what
The trigger's in ourselves. It's
yes, the trigger
whoever
is
getting
within
the
you.
trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, the trigger is within you. And it's coming to understand, it's actually coming to the understanding of that. And that the other person is really there to help you look at that trigger, to bring it out. They don't consciously understand that, right? But that was technically that was the agreement.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
You may choose afterwards, once you work through your emotions and once you work through where does this trigger come from, what emotions that are behind it, and or beliefs, and whether you still want to keep it or let it go. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do I let it go? You literally just decide consciously, I want to let it go. It might not be, it won't be like this that you let it go, but it's consciously telling yourself over and over whenever it is that things happen, but you got to go through the emotions. You got to go through the emotions, figure out what you feel, figure out where those emotions, what those emotions are connected to, and
Well,
most
it's
likely
understandable that it makes it so hard for people to not do it. And one,
it's a lot of
culturally, we're
work.
not we're not trained to do it. We're not taught, oh, let's spend some
Yeah,
time with your emotions and figure it out what you're feeling and why and blah blah blah. But then, life takes over and you're like constantly doing, 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 and you have this wave of life coming at you. Yeah, it's hard to make that time, but if we don't make that time, we're gonna feel the repercussions of it. So, um, most people need to, honestly, I agree with you. We need to spend more time and teach ourselves, our children, that we need to take that time. And it's not just a matter of taking the time to go, oh, okay, I need to rest from work or I'm going on vacation just to veg out on the beach. That's fine. You need that too, but you also need some hard work time within yourself. Like, what's happening in me? Why am I like seek out why I'm having blockages of certain things, or I have these habits that I can't kick. What is really happening on a sub level, not just the physical level, but like it's
it's on
both.
the emotional level, right?
Yeah.
Even habits, right? Like I love to eat.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in a good mood. I'll eat. I think I did something well. I'm gonna reward myself, right? They say food is not a reward. I'm not feeling well. I think I'm gonna eat. So,
Yes,
um,
exactly.
but it's like it's the same as like, just pacifying. Well, that's how I pacify myself. I
No,
try not to anymore.
yeah,
I'm working on it.
or just, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we go to our vices, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, I mean,
um
I don't know how you were brought up, but that's how, in a way, I was brought up. Like, if I hurt myself, right? Like if I'm crying, they're like, "Oh, don't cry. Here's candy." Right?
I think as a culture, yeah, my culture would do something like that. You reward with the food, and you
Hmm.
can potentially punish with the food too. But at the same time,
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, there's something to it. And Asian culture, um, many Asian cultures is about, oh, feed you constantly. Eat, you didn't eat yet. Here, eat some more. Oh, you ate. Oh, here, have some more. It's like it's an act of love too. That is, talk about love, acts of love. Culturally, that's one way to offer love. So we internalize that too at some point with that concept of our relationship with food. It's like, It's a loving act, and it's like without the balance, without the understanding, it becomes a vice potentially. Yeah,
It's yummy though.
yeah. There's just like alcohol, right? That's another thing.
Yeah,
You know,
that's another thing. Yeah.
it's a lot of cultures. It's like a thing that brings people together, and it's
Mm-hmm.
in some interesting way a loving act. But culturally, it could go sideways, and many cultures go overboard with it because you're
Mm-hmm.
not looking at the root cause of what really connects the people. It's not the alcohol; it's the connection of the people, or the care and the celebrations, everything like
Yeah,
that.
the good stuff. The good
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, I feel like we talked so about so many things at the same time today.
Yeah. We
Started with
sure
love,
did.
but we started with love because that's a big topic, right?
It
And if
sure
we
is.
even break it into like further, go into, relationships and how relationships work, and I think we can do like two more of
Oh,
these.
or more. Yeah. But I think
Um,
that was a good start, and I think we might have some good input. Yeah, guys, if you have anything that comes up for our chat here, please share. We'd love to have this conversation going longer.
yes, because what what we are saying, these are just our, what we believe our thoughts, and we can all have different ones, and that's absolutely fine, right? There's no absolute, right? Because there's many people out there. We're all very different. We all have different beliefs, ideas.
Yep.
So please do share. But all I will say is remember what we're saying is not again an absolute. These are just thoughts that we have. Therefore, we all your thoughts, if they're not the same, very much welcome as long as it's respectful. Um, because I have no problem taking anyone else's belief. Like even Carrie and I don't have the same beliefs at times, and that's okay. I
Yeah,
still love you, girl.
yeah, I'm sure. I love you too. We hug it out all the time,
Right?
virtually.
Yes, and that's part of what we are missing, I feel like, in this world, right? Because it seems like a lot of times people want to prove that their way of thinking is the only way of thinking,
Right.
which is not the case at
No,
all. I
no.
mean, I'll still think the same way even if you try to prove something to me.
Right. And plus, we're all evolving individually. Our person 10 years ago versus us now or 10 years later could be completely different in our beliefs too, potentially. And it's all okay. It's just that journey, and we're journeying it together. So why not
How
make it a
exciting.
more pleasant experience? So anyhow, if you enjoy our conversation and want us to continue, please smash that subscribe and like buttons, and we will be back.
Absolutely. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.